Welcome back into Exit 99 Sports. As always, my name is Caleb Deloach, and today I am once again joined by Coach Stephen Hemby, except, Coach, this time we're talking about football.
Switching it up. Glad to be back.
Yes, sir. Well, like I said, a month or two ago, we were talking about really good track season for you guys. I'm sure there's going to be some little bit of crossover there for sure, but you're back out on the football field, outside. I think the day that we're actually recording this is like one of the hottest days of the summer. So we're definitely back here in early season football practice. I guess, how excited are you to get the real thing going here?
Oh, I'm ready. It's been a great summer for us. Kids have been working real hard. Their kids are showing up. Kids are doing what they need to be doing. Coaches are coaching kids hard and getting after it. Kids are having fun, and we're down to the last week for us. By the time this airs, we'll probably be in dead week or maybe even starting actual practice by then. But it's the last week of summer going for us, so we'll get max lifts and time flying tens and all that good stuff. And then I think we do some kind of neat this week that we do a JV contact camp with our young kids. So when we do our actual one in June, that's varsity only. We get some young guys some reps at times, but then on Wednesday of this week, we'll do a JV contact camp where it's just those guys, and they get coached hard by all the coaches and get more eyes on them, just so that we can make them understand it's still important, guys. Just because you maybe didn't get some reps here, you got your own day scheduled for that, and you're going to get everybody's attention. All eyes are going to be on you, and this is your time to go out and show us what you can do.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, yeah, I guess a few things. How has kind of the stuff people don't get to see, the off-season weightlifting, things like that, how have the kids been, buying in on the weight room?
Coach King, for us, our strength and conditioning guy, he does a great job with those kids. They show up, they throw around some weight, for some of our kids that we've got. I think we've got some strong kids in the weight room that do a good job of focusing and getting better every day, and really taking their time in there and doing what they're supposed to be doing, putting the correct weight on, doing the correct amount of reps, making sure they get their auxiliaries in. I've been really pleased with our young guys. We're blessed in our situation that we have a junior high weightlifting program as well. Now he has to teach a little bit more PE than Coach King does, but Coach Neal's at the junior high. He runs junior high weights. So all of our 7th and 8th grade football kids are in junior high weights with him, and then they just transition. It's a little bit more of maybe a faster pace at the high school, but there's not a lift or a stretch or a routine that they have to do as a freshman that they haven't done as a 7th or 8th grader. So we're blessed. So we don't have that big transition time. You might get a kid or two that hasn't been in the weight room, or a transfer or a move in, something like that, or a kid that just didn't play football. We got a couple of them that didn't play in junior high but want to play in high school. So they have a little bit of a learning curve, but for the most part, it's a pretty good transition from 7th grade to 8th grade, 8th grade coming over to 9th grade, doing that. It's been good. Yeah, been pleased with that group.
And something else, I guess less football related, but obviously very important for life, is I've seen you guys, posting online. A lot of the stuff you guys have been doing involve like food packing, food pantry, things like that in the community. Talk about that a little bit. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's an expectation at Cape Central that we get out and we do that. So it's one of those things that you never know how kids are going to handle that. Our kids are going to go there and do we really want to do this? Do I want to give up my time? I'm telling you that when we went to the food pantry, our kids were competing on who could get the stuff in the boxes the fastest, who could tape the boxes up the fastest, and that's the thing that was really good. And, we as a staff, I think we did a good job of it's not just seniors over here and juniors over here. You got a senior offensive lineman with a freshman running back putting, whatever the food product is into a box. Some of our groups of kids wrote letters that were included in the backpack program that they'll give in there. They wrote, "Hey, go Tigers," that kind of stuff. But that's a junior outside linebacker with a sophomore receiver. That was really cool. And just to see those kids get in there and, they weren't too big for the moment. They showed up and they worked, and that's what we like. And we did that one, and then one of our new coaches, Coach Williams, his daughter is in charge something over at the Safe House for Women thrift store. So we took some kids over there and did some work back in the back, sorting and doing stuff with packaging and putting stuff on shelves. I mean, I had the group that had to build the shelf, and man, that was a trip, guys. That was a trip. But the kids had fun, and they had to learn how to work together and do these things. So we had two or three groups go over there and work with them, and it's been a good time. Yeah. It's good for our kids to give back and get out into the community, and we always ask for them to come support us. So we need to be out in the community doing things like that, so that our kids understand, like, hey, we are doing these things to try to get these people to come help us, support us on Friday nights. We need to be out and meet them where they're at, with whatever job or whatever space we can do it. And, we're always looking for opportunities to get our kids out in the community and, put a jersey on them and let them recognize, hey, Cape Central is out here doing stuff, because there's not enough of that out here, in my opinion. No, that was really cool. I was really fired up to see that. That was one of the neater things I've seen, like you said, this offseason. Something else you kind of alluded to in that is all the stuff you do in the summertime. A big part of it is, I feel like, kind of building that team bonding, if you will, a little bit for the guys, the chemistry, especially, like you said, amongst different classes. Because, there's new kids that are on the team this year that weren't even in high school with this past year. And, you lived through it last year. Like, there's going to be guys stepping up that never thought that they might have probably got an opportunity at the varsity level, coming into the year. Like, how important is that in the summertime for, like, guys cross positionally or whatever, getting to know each other and kind of building up that team factor? It's great for our kids to just get to know everybody. We're blessed with our situation in the locker room where our kids, yes, they're separated by class, but us as coaches, we do a good job of dividing those kids out. So it's not just the senior bay and the junior bay. My kids, like the offensive line, are the kids that I coach. The kids that I think are going to help us on Friday nights, for the most part, they all sit together. Well, that's a sophomore through seniors that they're all in a locker, like they're all six right there together. So, that's the thing that I think is cool. But we do a good job with those kids of, we did something new in the weight room this year where instead of being like, hey, freshmen and sophomores and juniors and seniors, it's bigs and skills. So freshman linemen are lifting with senior linemen. If you're a stronger type linebacker kid, I can easily think of a couple of those kids. They're lifting with the linemen, right? So it's nice for those kids to learn and compete with our kids that are, going to go out and play in the trenches every day. It's nice to see that those kids get to see those kids. On the flip side of that, there's some older skill guys that maybe our quarterback or maybe our starting dime or whatever it's going to be. Well, they're going to be playing next to a sophomore, and it's nice to get those kids next to those kids and try to get them to lead a little bit when times get tough. When the routine gets hard, are they going to step up and say something to those kids, or are they just going to try to get through it? It's neat to see some of that stuff. Yeah, I have maybe a dumb question when it comes to football or practice, things like that for the summer. I guess it is kind of second nature for a lot of guys that end up in coaching, because there's a lot of teaching crossover and things like that, kind of building lesson plans. Like, I remember, it's been a little while now, but like math class where it's like, you learn how to add one number, then you learn how to add two numbers. Is that basically how you kind of build practice plans, off-season plans, where it's like, obviously you have guys coming in at different levels, but you're kind of building like a little bit, adding on each day, each week, whatever it might be? Yeah, Coach Gibbs does a good job with us as both an offensive and defensive staff, where we have a it's not a progress sheet, I don't remember the name of it now, but a installation sheet. Mm-hmm. So we as a staff, we meet and go, okay, hey, what's most important? Coach Gibbs is always going to be an inside zone guy, right? So for us, hey, that's day one. That's inside zone. Well, then what are we going to do off of inside zone? That's going to be our next bread and butter, whatever it is. So we'll script out even before practice starts. We'll script out, hey, this is what our install is going to look like. Now we take that paper and take it to our practice sheets and say, okay, hey, our first day is a Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be inside zone and whatever our best passing concept is. And then you just kind of build off of that. And what I think our staff does a great job of is we'll reevaluate. It may be every day. A lot of times it's that Thursday because we go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday we'll reevaluate and say, okay, hey, our outside zone did not look very good today. Let's move our install back a day, and then let's review outside zone on Tuesday. So it's not like it's all jumbled up.
Yeah.
Because now all I did is I took what we were going to do on Tuesday and I pushed it to Wednesday, which stays in our installation sheet. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the thing that you go off of. And I feel like as our offensive staff, we do a very good job of figuring that out and making sure, hey, what do we need to review today? What do we not run well? After watching film, I can call, our offensive coordinator and be like, hey, I don't think we ran outside zone very well today. I need more of that in team, or I need an inside run period to focus on that, those type of things. And we're really good with that. We do a good job of communicating and, okay, hey, we need this today. Let's fix it. How can I fit this in? What do we need? Those type of things. So, yeah, it's very much teaching. It's lesson plans, building on, if I know this, can I get to this, that kind of stuff. That's what it is. But we have that initial plan that maps out exactly what we want to get done, how many days we have to do it that fits into the schedule, and what do we need to do.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you mentioned now a few times you run the offensive line at Cape Central. You had a few different roles over the past. How, I guess, kind of settling into the offensive line was something sort of natural. I know we talked before about being an offensive lineman, things like that. So that transition, I assume, was like, stepping back into riding a bike, I assume, for you?
Yeah, it wasn't that easy, but yeah, it's where I belong. That was when I got hired at Cape with Coach Gibbs. We needed a defensive coordinator, and I had done that my last couple of years at Scott City. So it worked out that was, the position that I was going to be hired at. So I was defensive coordinator and linebackers coach, which is what I did at Scott City on top of offensive line and some of the other stuff that I did. Well, when you're a small school defensive coordinator, at least in my experience, if I go play a team down, class 1, class 2, if they're a spread team, they're a spread team. They're going to be 2x2, 3x1 for the most part. They might throw a little bit of a heavy set at you, but that's pretty much what they're going to be. Yeah. Well, then I can remember my first year at Cape, so my practice plans didn't change a whole lot. Hey, this is how we line up to this. This is how we line up to this. I remember showing up, watching film against Bolivar my first year, who ran, I want to say it was 65 different formations. Okay. And so I'm used to hey, it's 2x2, 3x1, guys. Now it's pro tight. Now it's pro off. Now it's this. And not only that, they would line up in pro and shift to 2x2 and run a play. And I wasn't smart enough to understand that they were really only running about 3 plays, but they were running it out of different formations, right? So, hey, this looks like power. Hey, this looks like power. Hey, guys, it is power, just out of different looks. That was a really eye-opening deal for me. It's like, hey, man, I'm really not working very well at this right now. I've got to get better. We were talented that year. We had some talent that first year. You and I were talking, that's Tyrus Redden, Deshaun Franklin, Cam Cox. So we had some talent. I go into that next year, I was probably a better coordinator as far as being more prepared. Yeah. We just weren't as talented that year. Yeah. So we didn't win as many games, and it comes and goes. Well, then that next year is when we got Coach McGill to come up that was with Coach Gibbs at Sykeston for years. We got him to be an assistant principal for a year, and then he ended up being the AD there for a couple of years. Well, I joked with Coach McGill when that decision was made that he was going to come. Obviously, he was going to be the guy. So I laughed and I said, hey, what am I going to do if you coach linebackers? Well, I coached outside linebackers for a little while. He coached inside linebackers. But I'd always told Coach Gibbs that my goal would be to get back to being an offensive line coach. Mm-hmm. So we had Coach Sink that we talked about there before we got on camera. He's been, a legend. We miss Coach Sink every day. Well, he was getting ready to have his first knee replacement surgery. So Coach Gibbs came to me and said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? Go learn it for a couple weeks, see what he's doing, and then when he has to take his time off, you just take that role and go. And then when he comes back, you guys can do it together. I've been to the offensive line ever since. Nice. So I'm blessed, that Coach Gibbs gave me that opportunity, and blessed that I got to work with Coach Sink and learn from him on a lot of the little intricate things that maybe I didn't understand as I wasn't super young, but I was younger at that point. Yeah. Working with him and getting underneath him and learning some things that, our kids still do drills that he taught us and terminologies that he taught me, as soon as I started working for him, that they're going to hear it tomorrow when we go through drills.
Right. Yeah, Coach Sink, one of a kind. I'll say he was coaching pole vault at Jackson. I know whenever I was on the track team there, a lot of fun. He was an all-time guy to have on the bus absolutely. Or have at track meets. I'm sure you have plenty of Coach Sink isms and Coach Sink stories.
We do
throughout his time period.
We have plenty, but that just shows the impact that he had on you. He was very. When you first get to introduce to Coach Sink, he kind of looks a little ornery, grumpy old manish, right? And then he may even talk to you that way the first couple times, but then as you really get to know Coach Sink and understand that he really is there for the kids, he just wants to make kids better, and he loved what he was doing. That's why he did it for until the day he passed away. Right. So that's one of those things that I hope our kids understand how blessed they were to have him, because he's a legend, and we miss him every day.
Yeah, no, he was a great one. So you get into, you guys over what you went through last year, 8-4, good season. It was not an easy road to 8-4, very good record. But early on, from the jump, week one, you lose what a lot of people look to as kind of the guy on offense for y'all. Keyshawn went down with the broken leg week one, and it kind of kept at that. We talked before off camera about how you guys shuffled through a dozen different offensive linemen, it felt like. I remember every week it's like, this guy's down for you guys, or this guy's back, or this guy's whatever. That had to be a lot to deal with, especially on the offensive line. I know you guys went through a lot.
Yes, losing Keyshawn early in the year was not something that we had on our bingo card at all. But, the thing is that it really kind of goes to show it's a testament to our kids. Izzy stepped in that game. We didn't really change a lot of the run game stuff. We just handed in the ball. Offensive line kind of did what they were supposed to do, move the ball when we needed to move it. We got defensive stops when we needed them, so we pulled that game out. And then we go play St. Charles West the next week, and Izzy rushes for, it was 230, 240 yards, something like that. So obviously offensive line did a decent job there of creating seams for him and doing those things. But I lost my starting left tackle like the second to last play against St. Charles West. He got kind of rolled up on. We was an on and off 4-year starter for me. So I replaced him with a freshman. Now Jamie Adams was a special freshman, but Jamie was a freshman. And then just periodically, Max Pardon was one that, he kind of had an ankle issue. I think it was the next week against Sykeston. He didn't finish the game. Isaiah Husky gets hurt the Tuesday before we play Jackson, which I think was week 5. Yeah. About the only ones that I had left were Connor Poole and Demarion Nunley. Both played both times, but I went into game 1. I started 5 seniors, and then my next backup was a senior. It's like, hey, I feel pretty good about this. Yeah. Well, then by week 5, I'm starting a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and 2 seniors. It's like, okay, well, here we go.
Looks a lot different.
Yeah, but now we kind of reap the benefits of that now, where I didn't have to start completely over this year. I've got technically 4 kids that return that have started at least one football game for me. So, there's pluses and minuses to both, and I'm very much hey, find your positives in a situation. Do I like losing kids that I've coached for 4 years to injuries at any point in their senior year? Absolutely not. I don't wish that on anybody. But your positive in that is that you got some young guys, some reps that are going to end up helping you. And right now, all those kids are competing for spots for this year as starters. Where Wyatt Seagraves is the one that I can think of. He played center at JV the first week.
Really?
And then by week, I'm going to guess 8, he was starting at right tackle for me at the varsity level. So it's just like, he progressed and got to that point where I needed him. He's one of those guys now that's going to compete for a starting job on the offensive line, that he probably doesn't know how much further ahead he is now from the game reps he got last year than where he is if he would have just been a JV player right now.
Right. So, yeah, and you mentioned it, you were probably particularly excited going into last year, having a lot of senior guys on the offensive line. That is one position at all levels of football, it feels like, more than any, where experience, obviously, getting there physically, getting the size and things like that is incredibly important, but just experience of going against guys, having that feel for playing the position is one of the most important aspects.
For sure. I have not been blessed with great size as the offensive line coach at Cape Central. This freshman group that we have now has some good size kids in it that I'm hopeful can progress to turn into be offensive linemen for me. But that's the thing that we talked off camera. But a couple of the better ones that I've had were Nate Roth and Connor Poole. Mm-hmm. I don't know that either one of them are 6 feet tall. And by week 10 of their respective senior years, I don't know if they weighed 215 pounds.
Right.
But
yeah, because Connor, what got third in state in wrestling, like 190?
He bumped to 197, but there was a time that he was going to cut to 182 or whatever it was.
And this is an all-state center for you.
Correct. And so he was kind of on his cut towards the end of our football season. Yeah. And Nate kind of did this thing where his freshman year he started some games for us more out of necessity than true ability, but he would be another one that's like, hey, he probably doesn't know how much better he was as a sophomore because he got to play as a freshman. As a sophomore, he was kind of learning the ropes still. He played center. I didn't put a lot of ownership on him because I had a couple seniors that year that were good players for me. And then as a junior, he kind of took the reins, and then him and Connor were good players for me that year. Nate's junior, Connor's sophomore year. Then Nate's senior year, he really took the role as the leader. And, I kind of tell our centers all the time, like, you're the guy that I'm going to coach hard because you're the one that's going to make all the calls. You're the one that's going to have to be right. So you're going to have the thickest skin because when you come off, you're the one that I'm looking for answers for. And both Nate and Connor did a fantastic job of, like, not taking those conversations personal. Yeah. Like, hey, man, I just want to know what we need to do to get better. Help me figure that out. Sometimes that's a quiet, hey, you and I are going to talk right here. Sometimes that's you're going to get your butt chewed in front of everybody because you need it. Let's figure it out. And both those kids did a fantastic job. And but I can remember we talked earlier off camera about the MICDS game, and I was thinking I just texted some of our linemen. It's kind of off topic, but I texted some of the kids that I've coached past. I do a yearly lineman shirt every year for the kids that are current linemen. And I try to do something every year, maybe every other year that's a little different, a little special for a group. I did a mom shirt a couple years ago. Last year I did little bag tags for the guys and a T-shirt, that type of stuff. So this year I'm going to do an alumni shirt. I'm going to sell it to all linemen that have played at Cape. I'm going to advertise it. We're going to do the whole thing. It's going to be a good deal. Well, I got to thinking, so as I'm putting in text or putting in names into this text group, I'm like, hey, what year did he play? He did this. And so I got thinking about MICDS, and it's like, what? I played a freshman at left tackle that weighed maybe 210. I played I can't remember if Richard's a sophomore or junior that year. He would have been a junior. I played a junior that I don't know if Richard was 210. Nate was the heaviest at probably 230, but not a good 230 his sophomore year. Yeah. Pierce Bisher played right guard that maybe was 185 pounds, and Soren Janzo played right tackle that was maybe 190 pounds. Yeah. And, I told you I was going to get to this. So that's one of my funniest Coach Sink stories that we had was here. I'm going to put it into perspective of what we thought we were going to go against. We're standing outside, me, Coach Sink, and then Jim Lohr is the head track coach up there. They knew each other. Listening to those two guys talk to each other was awesome. I was just a fly on the wall kind of listening. And we're outside the locker room kind of waiting for things to, progress into our team itinerary on what our game was going to look like. And MICDS, they dress at the school, do their deal up there, and then they walk down the path and then walk to their locker room that they also have underneath the stadium. Right. And we're standing there, and these kids start walking by, and Coach Sink goes, well, golly, this is the JV team versus the varsity team, isn't it? I was like, you know what, Coach Sink, you're probably not wrong. And, we pulled out a win against a very good MICDS team that year. But I can remember lining up against some of those kids, watching our kids go compete, and it's like, man, we had no business moving those kids, running the football like we did, but our kids just never gave up. They played hard, and that's the standard that I've set, that I feel like I've set here at Cape. Is like, hey, we're going to get off the ball, and our goal, we're going to run the football. That's our goal, and we got to make it happen.
Yeah, I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure that's something that makes you really proud as an offensive line coach, because you said it, MICDS, you guys have had a lot of playoff runs. We'll talk about that here a little bit. You're graduating a senior class that won 10 games, 8 games this past year. These guys you've had guys you knocked off MICDS's, Eureka's, and they're absolute monsters that they have up front, teams like that. Like you guys have got to get some ferocious defensive lines. Even Cardinal Ritter a couple of times. I know you guys have ran the ball quite a bit against them as well. He put up pretty good numbers offensively at times there. And I'm sure as an offensive line coach that, looking back at that and seeing, like you said, hey, I've got kids out here that are sub 200 pounds blocking 320-pound kids on the nose and things like that. I'm sure that makes you extra special whenever you do get over the hump sometimes to beat those teams like that.
Yeah, it's nice for me. The thing that I like is that our kids just go compete. Coach Gibbs talks about the kids every day. Hey, it's just work. Just go work, guys. Work hard every day. And so that's the things that we've done with that group of kids that I've been blessed to coach is they're just going to go work. And sometimes I got to change the technique a little bit here or there. I can remember that first year when Coach Sink and I, that first run that we made where we got to Fort O in the semifinal game that we got to host. They had a defensive lineman that he was special. It's the only way I can tell you, man. And so Sink and I started talking, and one of the things that they didn't really do, they didn't blitz a whole lot. They didn't have to.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, here's my thing. I can change the technique here or there to help us be more successful in a run play if we need it. Against that kid, we're doubling him. I don't care where he's at. And one of the things that I thought was neat was he played nose guard to start, and for the most part, we handled him. Now, we didn't move him run game. We ran away from him. But in pass pro, he didn't make a bunch of plays against us. Yeah. Well, then all of a sudden I look out, and he's playing defensive end. And it's like, uh-oh, we didn't talk about this. Yeah. Well, that was Soren Janzo, who is a very intelligent kid, was like, Soren just said, hey, guard, you got to help me double. Well, that's the kids that I coach is they can handle it on their own. They know this was the rule. We're doubling this big kid. It just happened to be that Soren wasn't involved in those doubles to start with, but he knew when we moved it out there that that's what we needed to do.
Stay the same.
Correct. And so, that's the thing that kind of helps us, that I feel like I have good with our kids, is they know their role and what they're supposed to do. And that's my stress is, hey, do your job, snap the whistle every play. You don't have to do anybody else's job. You don't have to be, a special athlete to do this. I need you to get off the ball, run your feet, and play snap the whistle. And I've been blessed with kids that have bought into that, and I assume that we'll continue to do that.
Right. Yeah. I mentioned last season you guys 8-4. You do end up losing to Farmington in the district title, but what a schedule, looking at it, going through it. Obviously, you guys start out 4 consecutive wins. And right there in the middle of the season, whenever people are banged up, things are getting tough, you play 4 consecutive state-ranked teams. But then the performance, the ability to kind of, like you said, overcome different obstacles. I know there were guys coming in and out. I think quarterback Aiden McGuire got knocked out in the Lift for Life game. Be able to stem the tide, like you talk about the kid's resiliency of being able to go up against a Lift for Life team that ends up, I think, in the state title game and beat that team, a team that threw the ball for 400 yards a game, things like that, ran all over people. Really, really impressive. And another team with just freaks all over the field.
Yeah, they have some talent, that is for sure. Our kids seem to get up for that game, and I don't really have a reason to tell you why that is.
We beat them back-to-back years.
Yeah, we beat them last year too, and they've come down both times. And so now we actually have them on the schedule again. We're supposed to go up there and play them. But yeah, it was kind of the way that we righted the ship against a very talented team like Live for Life. That those are the type of games that at Cape we want to play. We want to play good teams to finish up and help prepare us to make a run at a district title, because there's no doubt for us that our district's going to be tough. It got tougher when Farmington got Coach Eckley, and that they're going to get coached up. And obviously, with the success that they had last year, like, they're not going anywhere, or unless they go to Class 6, they're not going anywhere.
Right. So
we need to play those games like that to be able to help prepare us for a run at another district title. So, Live for Life it's a great game for us. I follow a lot of social media on their stuff, and I follow the GSV that's up in St. Louis, and they're doing their top players at every position, and I feel like Live for Life as a kid in every deal. I'm like, well, defensive line, okay, well, I got to figure out how we're going to block that kid. Oh, hey, they also have 2 linebackers, and let's figure out how we're going to take care of them. But our thing is we'll deal with Live for Life when we get to them.
Yeah.
But it's been a good game for us, and both those games have been hard, competitive games. So it's something that we felt like we wanted to continue, and so did they. So we've got them for another 2 years, and I just hope that we can put our best foot forward and go compete with them again.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at this upcoming season schedule, also going to be difficult once again. Obviously, when you're playing the SEMO Conference, you're going to be in there every year. You're going to see those same teams. Farmington is in your district. Sykeston is also in your district. Not anymore?
No,
okay,
they're Class 4.
So you have Jackson as well. So, what is kind of what's your mindset going into just conference teams this year? What's your opinion on where things are going to go in the SEMO Conference? Kind of where's that?
I don't know that I have an opinion on them.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that, as you said, like we're going to play, we're going to show up, and we're going to try to put our best foot forward against all of them. Each one of those teams has a unique challenge for us at whatever point we get to play those teams. You never know what's going to happen from game to game, especially in the SEMO Conference. But our goal is to get better every week and be at our best when we kick off at 7:00 on a Friday night. And hopefully we can put our best foot forward in the game and do our best to come out victorious. But, the thing is, and I think the SEMO Conference gets overlooked.
For sure.
There's some dang good football in the SEMO Conference. And so I feel like almost any Friday night, anybody can play with anybody. And so it's one of those things that we're like, for us, we're not going to prepare for Jackson any different than we prepare for Sykeston, right? Hey, the game plan's we're going to meet on Sundays. We're going to talk about it. We're going to figure out our game plan. We're going to put together practice schedules. We're going to practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're going to either show up at whatever time we're supposed to show up, or get on the bus and get to where we're going to get ready to play. So that's one of those things that I don't really have a great opinion. Everybody's got their issues. Everybody's got their thing, their program that they've got to deal with it.
Because, like you said, whenever, like you guys, it's like somebody might have thought they were going to attack you one way, and then XYZ kids change in the starting lineups, and you got to just kind of adjust.
Correct. And I mean, that's coaching. That's why you get paid to coach. Is you got to make adjustments. You got to do the things during the week to be prepared for Friday, but you also got to be able to handle a different situation on Friday as well. So, it's an interesting job that we've undertook, but I wouldn't change it. I love it.
Yeah, one thing I appreciate about the SEMO conference, and I guess Southeast Missouri in general, but is how many connections there are coaching wise, and how many people have coached for this guy, played for this guy, things like that. I know we talked about it a little before in the past. Like, you played for Coach Eckley, you coached with him, against him. Now he's at Farmington after going to Jackson and coming back from Arkansas. You've got Coach May that you coached for at Scott Cities, now at Sykeston. I always enjoy, and obviously Coach Gibbs had incredible success at Sykeston as well. And he is a Jacksonian himself, and so I always appreciate those things where that kind of coaching community, if you will, kind of all stays within the region a lot of times.
Oh, let's see, and Coach Nesbitt at Jackson, him and I played in the East-West All-Star game our senior year for his dad. So Greg was the head coach of the team that we played on, and he hired Coach Eckley and then my offensive line coach at Montgomery, Coach Blank, to be the offensive coordinator and the O-line coach.
Oh.
So I wasn't drafted. Back then they used to draft, and so I didn't get drafted. It was actually Fair Week. I can remember that. And Fair Week in Montgomery County is a big deal. It is a big deal. They call it the greatest small fair in the state or something like that. It was Fair Week. It was Monday. And this is right before cell phones really blew up. I had the little itty bitty Nokia thing, and I get a phone call. I'm at the fair walking around. I get a phone call, and it's Coach Blank. He said, "Hey, you got plans for the next 5 days?" I said, "No. Why?" "Well, I'll be there in an hour. Get your stuff. We're going to Warrensburg." And I was like, "For what?"
What's in Warrensburg?
And so so Coach Blank knew that I had committed to go play Division III football, so I was working. I was still doing stuff. So he knew I was in okay shape, that I could handle a week like that. So I show up, I guess it was 2 days late, I believe is what it was. But, Coach Nesbitt and a couple of his Hickman teammates are there. And, I've got a couple buddies. Coach Fullhart that's at New Madrid was there with his buddy, Keith Floyd. It was a great group of guys. Ryan Heaton, who's been at Jackson, followed Coach Eckley down to Harbor. He was on that team as well. Dominique Robinson, that's at Hayti, was on that team as well.
Wow.
So it was neat. So when you talk about the connections, I said, I had Coach Nesbitt and I have a connection. We've talked at different times throughout the year, and then obviously we talk a little bit more now that he's at Jackson. And Coach Mann and him and I probably know each other better through track than we do football, but we still talk occasionally about different things, both football and track, and things that they do. So it's neat to see that. It's like my brother-in-law coaches at Sykeston.
Cool.
So I'm cheering for Sykeston every game with the exception of one.
Except one,
right? And that's kind of it's a neat thing to kind of see. But I get a text from a lot of different coaches on a Friday, just like I'm sending out different texts to coaches. Hey, good luck. Hope you guys stay healthy. Be great for your kids. All that good stuff. It's neat. The SEMO conference is special, not only in the product of football that we put out, but also, the coaches that are in the conference and the coaching staffs that are in the conference. I'm sure a lot of places say this, but I'm telling you, there's some good football in the SEMO conference, and when you get into the conference schedule, there's some dang good football played in Southeast Missouri on Friday nights.
For sure. Farmington made a good state run this past year. Jackson made a good state run this past year. You guys have made, what was it, back-to-back semifinal run? Or you went to one semifinal? And
2 and 3 years ago, we went semifinals, and last year we were in the championship game.
Yeah, so this area very consistently playing very, very good football, getting deep into the postseason. And so, A, there's that challenge on the schedule. And then B, you start out week 1, Liberty Wentzville, new team onto the schedule. How did that scheduling come about maybe? Or, what are you looking forward to about playing them? They're coming down here this year.
Yeah, they come to us. It's nice to get some of those teams from the St. Louis area that want to play, that want a different dynamic. Obviously they're going to come down here next year. We're obviously going to travel up there. Scheduling, I don't do a lot with it. Coach Gibbs may ask, hey, do you know anybody at these certain places that might be able to get you some film to, is this somebody we want to play week 1 versus week 9, whatever it is. But, as far as that, the only thing that I know about the scheduling is, like, we're going to start scheduling for our next 2-year cycle in, like, October. Okay. So you don't know what a team's going to have 2 years from now, much less we haven't even finished our regular season schedule from this year, and we're already looking at 2 years on where we're going. So that's kind of the drawback of the whole, not doing a 2-year district deal and all of that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, everybody is dealing with the same things. So go play. So we put it out there on Misha. We had an open date. My understanding is Liberty reached out and was like, hey, we'd like to play. I think they're class 6.
Yeah. They were last year, and they went 7-3 last year, so that'd be good company.
They had some talent. They had quarterback and running back that could play, offensive linemen that were big and at least in a little bit of film that I've seen, physical. So I think it'll definitely be a great opening game for us that we're excited to get to. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We just want to get to practice and be healthy, and hopefully we're healthy when it's time to play that game, and hopefully it's not 105 on Friday night.
Please. Yeah, and then I get the one question I do have about the schedule, St. Charles West. Is there a connection there? What's the Cape and St. Charles West? Unknown?
I don't know. We took a break there, so like my first year we played St. Charles West. And then we took a break, or maybe we played in my first 2 years. And then we dropped St. Charles West, but played St. Charles. And then St. Charles West came back. I don't know that there's a connection there.
I've wondered, because I looked it up. It's the 14th time y'all have played since 2010 this year.
And I know they've played a couple times in the playoffs. Yeah. So I don't know what the connection is, but it's a game that we both enjoy. Their facilities are good. We get up there and it's an easy drive. Sometimes you find those teams that are out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, man, there's no easy way to get here. Yeah. How are you going to handle this? It's an easy drive. Our kids will go up there. We feel like we compete with them, and we feel like they want to play. So let's play.
Yeah, and just very competitive up and down the schedule this year. That's why I appreciate seeing you guys challenge yourselves. I'm just running through it. We mentioned Liberty's Class 6 school, St. Charles West. Played Gateway, new on the schedule this year. First time I've seen on in the record books you guys are meeting. They have lost one game. I have back-to-back seasons. Live for Life we talked about. Back on the schedule. They lost in the Class 3 state championship by a score. And they're always loaded. And then at the back end of the schedule this year, you bring in Dexter, who coming off back-to-back 10-win seasons. So this is a good schedule. It's a good way to challenge your kids, I feel like, this year.
Yeah, we're going to take it one game at a time, and like I said, try to put our best foot forward and be ready when it comes time to kick off on a Friday night. But yeah, it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Different's not a bad thing for us. Our kids need to experience some different things at different times. It's just one of those things that this is the schedule that was put in front of us, that we need to go out and compete. And, that's the thing that we'll tell our kids all year long, and just, hey, at the end of the day, we're preparing for 7 o'clock Friday night. Let's go compete with whoever's across from us and go give it our best shot.
Yeah. A lot of opportunities for that. So getting into kind of what you guys, what fans can look forward to for this year. So set the stage for it. We talked about it a little bit beforehand. You guys are graduating a pretty talented senior class, a pretty special senior class. Some guys, all-state guys. Jathan Spain is playing at SEMO. Connor Poole, who's an all-state center for you. Some very good running backs, Murray, Boyd. You guys are moving on from a lot of guys, a lot of skill position guys who like Martavian Robinson, Terrell Grove, Deshaun Sims, also a tight end. So there's a lot of guys. Breon Clemens, who ran for you as well. There's a lot of guys, a lot of names that have been playing consistently for y'all. 2, 3 years, 4 years in some cases. So there's a lot of names that are going to be new, I feel like, for a lot of people coming into this year.
There are, but kind of like what we said with all of those guys at different times, we got guys reps in different spots when we needed them that will help us. It kind of what I said with the offensive line. I'd feel a whole lot differently if I played every snap of every game with all 5 seniors that I had. But, it didn't work out that way. So I'm probably a little bit more ahead of the game this year with some of my kids because of the reps that they got last year. So same thing with some of those guys. Now, you take a kid like Malachi Johnson, who's a returning all-state defensive back. Right. Hey, buddy, you're probably going to play a little bit of offense too, just like Brayon did. Brayon was a defensive starter, but he also took some reps on offense. Yeah. Malachi will probably be in that boat. Christian Murdoch is another one that I can think of that he took some reps at defensive back. He took some reps at receivers. You know what? Guess what now? He's going to be at least the starter probably one way, and then we'll play whenever we need him to play another way, whether that's offensively or defensively. It's kind of up in the air right now. But, those are type of things that I just think that we do a good job as a program of understanding that we're going to have issues that will come up. Mm-hmm. We have to have somebody else that can play. Right. Now, is it, like I always said, like my backup right guard may not, if my right guard gets hurt, it may not be that kid that goes in. Mm-hmm. It may be my number 6 guy is actually a right tackle. Well, I can move my right tackle to right guard and put him in. Yeah. So that's kind of the position flexibility that we have that, the backup X receiver, if that kid got hurt, our starting X receiver got hurt, it may not be the backup X that got to play. Yeah. We may put the backup Z in and move the actual Z to X, something like that. So, that's what we do a good job of getting kids prepared. We do a good job of putting kids in situations where, for the most part, we think they're going to be successful, but they also have to lean on their ability a little bit, and it's not just easy for them. And
how difficult for a player or even coaching these kids is, like offensive line you can talk to, especially because, cross-training guys, different positions, it's, I guess an average person or a person who's never seen it or done it think, hey, it's all the same. You're blocking people, but positions are very, very different on the offensive line.
It's not the same at all.
All worlds is differently.
Yeah, it's not the same at all. And the hardest thing that I would say, and I would think most offensive line coaches would agree with you, is you got to have multiple centers because not everybody can snap the football.
Snapping the ball is not easy.
Not everybody can snap and step. Excuse me. So it's one of those things that you got to train a center a different way, and their blocking, at least in our offense, their blocking is different compared to a guard that's really different compared to a tackle. Mm-hmm. So, you got to have a kid that's intelligent. For me, I got to have a kid that's intelligent, that can snap and step and is a good bender. Mm-hmm. Well, that to me is why Connor was so good. He was a wrestler. Yeah. So he had great, what I called contact balance. Yeah. He had great balance that even if he took a step or he was wrong in a certain way, he was good enough to get caught up because of his wrestling background. So that's kind of those things that, that's kind of what I look for in a center. You got to be able to snap. You got to be able to snap and step. You got to be able to communicate with people, and you got to have decent contact balance. And then we go back and forth where sometimes I want my guard to be the bigger, stronger kid, my tackle to be the better athletes. Sometimes, I play in offenses where we're going to be like a trap team. Well, then I want my tackles to be a big kid and my guards to be more athletic to pull on trap. So it varies depending on what offense you want to run. But no, there's no, to me, there's no concrete hey, you're just a center or you're just a guard. I brought up Wyatt Seagraves earlier. He was a JV center. He's a right tackle. He's playing some center for me now, but he's also the first swing guy that I can put another center in and be like, hey, Wyatt, go take out Jamie for a couple reps. Let him get some water. You go play left tackle. Hey, Wyatt, now go to right tackle. And he's got enough savvy about him to be able to do that. Yeah. And I think I'm pretty blessed that I've got a lot of kids that I can do that with. And that's a testament to them as much as it is anything that they can they can take the lessons and adapt it to where they're going to be. And it's not just like, I don't just coach centers today. Like I'm in the rare boat. I'm selfish. It's the best way I can put it. There's a lot of programs that have 2 offensive line coaches. Mm-hmm. I want to coach them all. Yeah. Okay. Now I share my tackles. I share our tackles with our tight ends coach. Okay. Sometimes, when they need to work combo blockings, they'll go do their, I'll send tackles to them and they go do their thing. But for the most part, I've got all 5 of them because I want to be the guy that has to fix issues. And I just want to make sure that like they're getting the coaching from me. We're probably in the minority as far as Class 5 and 6 programs that only have 1 offensive line coach. But that's the way that I prefer it. Right. Now, if Coach Gibbs is like tomorrow, hey, we're going to get you another guy. Okay, sounds good. We'll coach him up. But I've been blessed that Coach Gibbs allows me to just take the offensive line and go coach those kids. But I also do a good job of making sure like our drill work and everything, it's not just catered to centers. It's not just catered to guards and tackles. Hey, you got to go over here and do this to make sure that you get a rep, those type of things. And so it takes a little bit of planning on my part, but I feel like for the most part I've done a decent job with that, and our kids buy in, our kids get reps, our kids do what they're supposed to do. So I've been blessed.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we don't have to give away how all the bacon is made necessarily here, but there's a couple staff changes this year. You brought in Coach Williams here, Coach Steve Williams, a familiar name and face to a lot of people this year. So, there's going to be a little bit of change there as well this season. Yeah,
Coach Will is going to be our quarterback's coach. We've known, most of our staff has known Coach Will for a while, not just, this new guy that came on to be our baseball coach that's also going to coach football. Some of those guys have known Coach Will for 20 years. So it's been – he may not think that it's been seamless, but I feel like it's been pretty good getting him in, coming from being a head coach to just being an assistant for us. It's one of those things that I think maybe there was a little bit of that learning curve of just how we do things for him. But, I mean, it's been smooth, and getting him in, he's been right in there, getting to know the kids, getting in there, coaching. It's nice to have him. We're definitely blessed to have him. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you guys, I mentioned, hey, there's a lot of guys that aren't going to be back this year. But you mentioned on the offensive line, I mean, you have a lot of guys that have played. Jamie Adams, who had a monster track season as well. Wyatt Seagraves. What other guys have had kind of varsity experience that you expect to that are kind of in that rotation in the battle right now?
So you said Jamie and Wyatt are both kids that are in line to take some snaps for me on Friday night. Warner Durham's another one that he started a bunch of games for us last year. He'll be another one of those guys. And then, from there, we're kind of, we've got some pieces there. Sean Wade's a guy that we got back that is taking some snaps for us that, we're looking forward to some of the things that he can do. Trinell Clemens is another one that he was just kind of a tweener. Like, he was a linebacker that at times just didn't fit what we needed as a linebacker. And then he played some tight end for us for a little while. And, that wasn't really where his fit was. And I can remember having a conversation with Trinell in the offseason. It's like, hey, man, if I could use you if you will commit to doing it. Well, he's put on, I don't know, probably 30 pounds, maybe 35 pounds. And it's not, don't get me wrong, he's got a little bit of a belly to him, but like his body has changed tremendously from maybe February when him and I had that conversation to now. He's a guy that I'm counting on to take some reps for us as well. Caden Lamb's another one that I think will be a guy. He was a state qualifier wrestler, won a couple matches at the heavyweight position. He's a guy that's there. We got some sophomores. Cash Miner's a guy that's taking some reps when we've had different guys out. And then we've got a couple freshmen that I've been very pleased with so far. Obviously they're freshmen; they do some freshman things, but Deontay Gwynns, they call him Big Mac.
That's some real size, right?
Yeah, I don't understand why they call him Big Mac, but yeah, he is a big fella. and so it's nice to get him rotated in there a little bit. When I'm subbing guys in and out, letting him go in there and get some reps against some varsity type to see what he can do for us. And I've been pleased with him so far. So those are the guys right now that I think will push for playing some snaps. But as far as it's the old adage, like I don't have any starters yet. All the jobs are open. I know who's taking reps at these positions, but I could get tomorrow and feel like, hey, I really need to make a change at center and move Wyatt somewhere else to better help the team. And I luckily for me in the position that we have with our kids, I do have some position flexibility with kids. Yeah. So that's the good thing for us.
Yeah. And obviously, offensive line coach, you don't get to work as intimately with a lot of other position groups. But the other side of the ball, defense, you guys, there's some guys graduating for sure, some really talented playmakers, things like that. But you bring back some pretty good talent on the defensive side of the ball. At the linebacker core, Logan Margetta, JoJo Hamlin's back. You mentioned Malachi Johnson's all-state defensive back. Demarion Williams, another special track kid as well. Looked on the stats earlier. He had 5 interceptions last season as well. You mentioned Christian Murdoch, Colin Chastain. These are guys that had maybe smaller roles last season because you had Clemens or Robinson or whoever playing both ways at times. So expect those guys probably as well to kind of mix it in this year.
Yeah, earlier I mentioned when we split in our weight room stuff and we do bigs and skills and we had a couple of those linebacker types. Yeah. Logan and JoJo are those 2 linebackers that come live with the bigs. Yeah. And I do, we kind of split our staff where we used to just you have weight room guys and you have skill guys. Well, now our staff does it where, hey, I'm the O-line coach, so I'm going to go with the bigs. So, we got guys that kind of rotate with guys. So I'm with those guys every day. And, those two guys compete their butts off every day. And it's fun to see those guys get after it. Yeah. I can remember this was, if it wasn't last week, it was the week before. I was splitting guys into groups and I didn't put Logan and JoJo together. And Logan from over to my left somewhere was like, hey, coach, I need to be in that group. And I kind of looked at him and I was like, what? Oh, I know why. Okay. Go be with JoJo and make each other better. And so it's really cool to see that group. And, I know as a defensive staff, me as an offensive coach, I have high expectations for both of those kids because they've definitely stepped up their leadership role. And they're a couple of our hardest workers that we have. And, I always laugh because Logan likes to play the scout team defense too, and man, does he make me mad sometimes because, he obviously he's a decent linebacker, so he makes reads and he makes plays, and I'm like, you're cheating. It's not my fault. I can read, coach. I'm like, all right, get your butt back up 2 yards and then read it from there, But him and I have that great relationship that him and I can just, we'll joke around, we'll jab at each other a little bit, but. I really appreciate what Logan's done for me as the coach in the skill guys with the running part and in the weight room. And I think Logan would say the same thing about some of the stuff that I do, getting the offensive lineman to get after him a little bit to help make him better. So, it's a good group of kids, and that linebacker depth right there, that's a good group of kids right there for sure.
And then. On the side that your guys probably been practicing a lot, the defensive line, that was a side that had quite a bit of attrition in those guys I talked about that moved on. You had some guys that like a Jason Spain or Deshaun Sims that would kind of flip over to the defensive side as well. Do you guys have any guys that are going to be playing both ways, or what are some of those guys in that rotation along the side?
We expect Jamie. Jamie will play both ways.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably Jamie, Sean Wade, and Trinell will probably all play defensive line at some point in a game. Other than those 3, that's 3 of my starters, but it's not like those are the 3 defensive linemen that we have. Yeah. For the most part, for me, once again, I said it earlier, I'm selfish. I want those kids to me so we can make changes and we don't have to communicate on the fly with those kids, but that's just not where we're at right now. If I only get 2 of them at a time, I'll coach those 2 kids up and we'll make changes and we'll go. But they, those three will play, but for the most part, the other ones, I don't anticipate a lot of sharing of kids, and really that's kind of the expectation that we've set. It's hard to be an offensive lineman at Cape because you're going to be an offensive lineman when we're on offense, and then you're going to turn right around and you're going to be a scout team offensive lineman as well. Okay. And so, I run the scout team, some of them, and so it's like I take a scheme. If we're running St. Charles West offense, which they don't run a popular offense would be the way I would put it. It's just different from what we run is the nice way to put it. Right. So it's like I have to take their offensive scheme and tell our kids how would we block this in our scheme without making it look bad and not giving the defense a good look. Mm-hmm. So they're stealing reps every day on our offensive stuff. A team might call what we might call inside zone, a team calls duo. Okay, well, I don't want to get in the battle of those two plays and which one's which. Well, they may call it duo on the deal, and I may just go, hey, we're going to go zone left. Well, our kids know zone left, and then they line up and they run zone left. Now you took a rep on what we would call zone left in team period. Well, now we just got better, I would be willing to bet if I called Nate Roth and said, hey, put your smart brain together and figure out how many plays of actual offense you ran from your freshman year through the last game of your senior year, I'm telling you it's probably in the tens of thousands because he took every rep of every offensive snap, whether it was scout team or regular team, pretty much his entire career. Yeah. So, but I think he would also say that was a testament to why he got to be the player that he was, because it wasn't just, hey, you're going to take on our scout team that may be our young kids today. Like, hey, that's fine. But then he's also going to go play center against our starting nose guard, who, for the most part, is a good player for us. Yeah. So he's going to take all of those reps, and if you do it right and you do what you're supposed to do, you should get better. Right. And I know he got better as time went. So there's some argument for me on, like, hey, I don't want to share those kids, right? But that's not where we're at. Coach Moorhead does a fantastic job. He's our defensive line coach. He does a fantastic job of rotating guys in and out, so they're always fresh. And, our kids do a good job. Like if Jamie's the starter, when he comes out, he'll take coaching from Coach Moorhead. And then usually by that time I'm done with my coaching. Mm-hmm. I find him and, hey, Jamie, this is what you need to know. Okay, great. Now he'll stand by Coach Moorhead and be ready to get rotated in. Yeah. So our kids do a good job with that as well. But we try to be platoon as much as possible and not play any of the starting offensive linemen on defense if we don't have to. Yeah. I don't think that'll be the case this year. I think we will rotate some of those guys, and it's a learning curve that we'll have to adjust to, and our kids will be fine. It'll take them a little bit in that Liberty game, but once we get through about the first couple series of Liberty, we'll have a good idea and be able to figure it out.
Yeah. Does that your offensive line guys, do they also flip over for special teams on the different units like that? Is it kind of expected, or is there just kind of different guys that mix in there as well?
Our better athletes will play some special teams. Mm-hmm. Like Trinell will be on our punt team for sure. And some of those guys will play like a PAT team, PAT field goal. But for the most part, we do a good job as a staff. We'll print out depth charts of both offense, defense, and special teams. And if you look and you take a kid like I'll pick Jamie, okay? If you take a kid like Jamie, hey, he's the starter on offense, defense, punt block, or punt return, PAT. Hey, man, you don't need to do all those. Like, we got a guy that can do some of those things. So we'll do a good job as a staff and go, hey, he's probably going to start for me on the offensive line. It's not there. Yeah. Coach Moorhead's going to say, hey, he's probably going to start for me on the D-line. What special team can we get him off of? And for the most part, we've been able to do that. But one of the things that I'm going to be honest with you, our kids want to play special teams. Yeah. Coach O'Neill does a great job of coaching those kids up and getting them to understand it is a third of the game. It is important. It's not it's not for the freshmen to run down and try to tackle somebody. I can remember like Keyshawn Keyshawn was mad that he could not be on the kickoff team anymore. Well, hey, buddy, you broke your leg.
Yeah.
We're trying to put you on a pitch count here a little bit. That's not like we don't need you to take that pitch right now. You know what I'm saying? But because the expectation for him was that's what he had done for 3 years.
Yeah.
So, okay. Maybe it was kickoff return. I don't remember. But he was upset that he was not going to be a big special teams player after he got back from injury. Well, that's a testament to our coaches making special teams important and making it to where it's not just going to be backups and twos that are playing special teams. Hey, our kickoff team, you might get a kid or two that's not a starter on our defense, but for the most part, our kickoff team is going to be our starting defense. Yeah. And they're going to run down there. They're going to do a good job. We're blessed with a really good kicker.
Logan Marghetto's a guy I remember seeing a lot and watching your guys' games. He was down there making a lot of tackles.
Correct. Yeah, he would go. But, on the flip side of that, we haven't talked about Joey.
This is what I wanted to get to, too, because you guys have, you're one of the unicorns of high school football. Let's be honest. You watch, you watch East St. Louis team, right? They've got 50 guys going to be playing in the SEC and the Big Ten. They had to go for 2 every single time they scored, or like a Cardinal Ritter or something like that.
Now because East St. Louis has a kicker now. I saw
that. Hey, did you acquire any 4-stars in the offseason?
We did not, and that's okay.
Okay. But yeah, no, So there's really, really good teams, good programs that don't have special teams nearly to the level you guys do. Yeah, you can get into that. I just wanted to say that that's always something I appreciate about you.
Yeah, and so Joey's done a good job of really taking his role and running with it, and if you think back to would it have been his freshman year he was the kicker against Eureka? Really, when you look at the score of the way it was, he had the game-winning kick. Now, it didn't come in the deal, but we won by 3. Yeah. He doesn't make one of those field goals that's tied. He misses both of them, we lose by 3. So, he's done a good job from then on and, has just progressed. But now, for the most part, unless he doesn't want to, he's going to put it in the end zone pretty much every time he kicks it. So, every offense is going to start at 20. Yeah. Okay?
It's a big weapon.
But when he doesn't do that, when he mishits one, or when he purposely tries to put it dead at the 1, we got a good group of kids that are running down there that are going to go make a play. And so that's one of those things that it's been good for us. And it's nothing for us to line up for a 45, 46-yard field goal, and he's going to put it to the goalpost. Yeah. Is he always going to make it?
He's got the leg.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's one of those things that, I'm not the coordinator. I'm not the head coach, obviously. But if I was, it's one of those things that, like, hey, I feel good. If we can get to the 40, I feel good about the chance that we can put 3 points on the board at least.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that Joey's just continued to get better and get better and get better. And so we're looking forward to seeing what he can do for us. But it's definitely one of those things that he is a special teams threat for us that we're blessed to have.
For sure. Yeah, the special teams is always fun. Like you said, I enjoy whenever I whenever I do watch you guys. It's like like you said, you're just like, we're around the 40. It's 4th and 9. Like, we have confidence this kid can put it up there. And then Alex Owasco, we got to give a shout out for the wheels.
Yeah,
we got wheels back there playing punter. He picked up like a 4th and 30 or something like that. At one point.
It was not good. It was the Live for Life game. Yeah. It was one of those things that we're on the sideline. It's 4th and whatever it was. So the O-line is just my expectation for them is come off the field, get a drink, and then we go sit down in front of the TV and we watch film and learn. So he takes off, and if you watch the play, he takes off, and then he starts to head out of bounds like 3 yards short, and it's like, no, go. Well, then he gets the first down, and I can't remember if we go down and score on that series or not, but it's obviously a game. It was a 17-16 game. Yeah. We get another series. We obviously take some time off the clock. Matter of fact, I think we go down and attempt a field goal. I think that's the field goal. I think we go into halftime 10-7 or 10-0.
Yeah.
So it's just another one of those plays that's like, in the scheme of things, did we have that called? Absolutely not. We did not. But, he whether you want to call it panicked, whatever it was, but he had enough savvy about him to go get the first down, and I'm pretty sure it ended up turning into 3 points for us that were the difference in the game.
And now everybody's got to watch out for the fake punt.
Yeah,
even on 4th and on 27. All right.
Yeah, we go for it like that. Yeah, we don't do that hardly ever.
No, but I'm excited about this team. You know, you guys have a lot as well. You know, the one unit that I do want to mention. You mentioned there's going to be some guys kind of working in that hadn't before. Obviously, like Malachi Johnson, Christian Murdoch, of what you know, kind of those offensive skill position guys, because you do graduate. Torrance Murray, who was over 1,000 yards, Keyshawn Boyd, who's one of the best running backs in school history, and then you know I looked up the stats. I'm sure you know everybody else knows them as well. I think there's 0 returning receptions from this past season.
That's probably right.
Coming back this year.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of guys that's going to be, you know, a lot of new faces on that side of the ball as well. Yeah. Jathan Spain, Martavian Robinson, Clemens, Murray, Grove, Sims, Boyd. A lot of new faces over there out wide in the backfield for you guys, I'm assuming, this year.
Yeah. We'll have that. But, you know, that group of kids is working hard. They're doing the things that they need to do in practice to learn how to be receivers. You know, Coach Probst and Coach McClard are coaching those kids now, so we've split those guys into 2 different deals so we can better get reps to those kids. So they're doing a good job, and you know, offensively, you know, all of our quarterbacks are doing a good job of distributing the ball and doing things that we're trying to do offensively. Yeah, we'll definitely have some new pass catchers. And that's okay. You know, our kids will show up. Our kids will work to get better at their craft. And, you know, it's I didn't know that until you said that. I didn't know that. But, I mean, I say I didn't know that, and I was the guy that I had 5 linemen, you know, 5 senior linemen. So I've been in those shoes. I get it. You know, I would tell you this, that we may not return a single catch, but we had kids – Christian Murdoch, some of those guys that played reps, we just didn't get them the ball. You know, and with that group of kids, I understand that a little bit. You know, Martavian wasn't a football player to start that ended up turning into being a pretty good player for us. Weapon. Obviously, Jathan's playing tight end at SEMO. He turned into a decent weapon for us. Brayon is just a special athlete. Torrance ended up helping us, you know, more as a running back, but, you know, there were times that he was kind of that slot guy that we ran in motion and ran some fly sweep with him. Terrell is a special one for me. You know, that's a kid that I've picked up since he was a freshman to get to football. Yeah. And freshman Terrell probably didn't enjoy football as much, but, you know, he's a kid that just worked every day to get better and just found his role. Yeah. And you know, it was never going to be, hey, we're going to catch 10 balls for 120 yards and 5 touchdowns. You know, it's never going to be his role, but he served his role, and once he just continued to perfect it is when he started getting open, and we started finding him, you know, and, hey, he was that great 3rd down guy, like, hey, you know, Brayon's going to go deep, and we're going to run him across the middle. He's going to catch it for, you know, we need 6. He got a 7. All right, 1st down, let's go. You know, but he was a work in progress for sure. But I'm dang proud of that kid for putting in the work and the time that it took for him to get there, because he didn't play as a junior. Really? You know, when I say didn't play, like he didn't play any varsity reps as a junior. So it's one of those things that in today's world have been very easy for him to go work. It'd be very easy for him to go do something else. Yeah. And he didn't. He just kept progressing. And then it just got to be that point where it's like, hey, man, he's our best guy. Let's go. Yeah. And then he shows up and finishes with some catches, some big catches for us when we needed first downs. Yeah. Yeah. And then you know, in the backfield, there's never been a shortage of you guys having running backs, whether it's, you know, we mentioned Keyshawn Boyd, and then a guy you might have not have expected to immediately step in a couple weeks later, Torrance Murray, and, you know, run for 1,100 yards. It feels like just one year after another, you've got one guy that's, you know, going to go over 1,000 yards. You've got another guy behind him that if he got the same reps, he would go over 1,000 yards. You've got a couple more guys that could go get you 5-6 yards a carry as well. You guys have had that, you know,
thanks to your group as well up front there, a big part of that. But you guys have that tradition, it feels like, at Cape Central of just having running back after running back after running back.
We're blessed with some good athletes that play that position for sure. For what we do offensively, we have to have a kid there that can handle the load a little bit and be a player. Yes, we've been blessed with that group. I mentioned Izzy earlier when Keyshawn went down. Izzy played in some games for us, had some yards, had some touchdowns, and then when Torrance really got hot and got going, Izzy got less carries. Well, what Izzy did do is go play defensive end for us. Izzy found a role.
Yeah.
He's still a running back. He's still going to get some carries for us, but he accepted his role as more of a defensive player for us when Torrance kind of stepped up. And it's just going to be that way again. For us right now, our best athletes are probably going to play running back.
Yeah.
I have a hard time seeing that change. And you bring up the it's because of your guys that they have these yards. I'm always that guy. Hey, the offensive line worked their tails off. But I can tell you when we had Zaire and Keyshawn, there were things that those kids did that I'm like, as the offensive line coach, I'm mad because we scheme it up, we block it right, we do everything right, and you take it the backside where it's not supposed to go for a touchdown, and I'm like, all right, great job, guys. I'm giving them a high five on the sidelines, and I'm telling our guys, you guys did this exactly the way that you're supposed to. We just happen to have two special running backs right now that can do some things for us. Connor, who's a perfectionist, would always he'd get upset because it's like, hey, why didn't it go there? And I'm like, dude, listen, you block your guy where he's supposed to go, and if our backs run into him and he gets tackled, then I'll get them to the sideline and say, hey, you should have gone here. Yeah. But in 12, 14 games, how many times have they done that? None. No. Okay, well, then just be quiet, get off the ball, and go do what you're supposed to do and let those guys go play. I think with any of our kids that we've got this year, Izzy's still in that rotation. Mikael Boyd got some carries last year that will probably be in that rotation as well. That either one of those kids have some ability for us that can do some of those things that we talk about. And as I tell our linemen, like, I need you to get off the ball and do your job. Don't do anything special. Yeah. Just do your job. And if the running back runs in to your guy because he thought he saw something, hey, that's just the nature of the beast for us, and we'll just line up and go play. And I'll coach him up the next time and say, hey, you probably could go here. Right, you probably could follow this guy if you want to, but
you see that hole right there.
Yeah, but listen, I thought that first year that we had Zip when Zip really showed up, I'm like, why isn't he following the tackle? Well, you know what? If he follows the tackle, it's +3, or if I find the hole that the guard vacated that they didn't put anybody in, and it's +60, I'm just being selfish. I'll take +60 every time, man. So go ahead.
Yeah, you guys have had some really, really special kids there, some special playmakers across the board. So I'm excited. I'm fired up to watch you guys. I've talked about it beforehand. I do radio for all the Jackson football games, so I don't get to watch all your games live, but I always go back and watch. It's a lot of fun. It's been a long time. I've talked about it on here many times. I was like, did I graduate from Jackson? Can I be biased? Yes. But look, I was there. I've been there. My wife is a Cape graduate, Cape teacher. And we were there watching, some lower number win seasons, some seasons where things didn't go well. I was there. I was there, and I stayed all 4 quarters because I am kind of I'm that like old man. I'm like, hey. No, we came here, we paid $5. I'm staying until it's over. Hey. Thank you. But it's been this stretch the last 4 years have been a lot of fun. We talked about 38 wins for these kids that are going out. I mean, it's a great time to be over at Cape Central playing football right now.
We say that a lot. It's always a great day to be a Tiger. It's a good time, and it's no fault of anybody's. At the end of the day, our kids just show up and work, and that's I think a lot of football coaches would say that, and it's not banter, it's not this. That's what our kids have just done since I've been at Cape. They just show up and they work. Good, bad, indifferent, they're going to show up. Everybody's going to have a bad day once in a while. But for the most part, they're going to be there. They're going to work hard while they're there. And then, they're they're going to listen. They're going to be coachable, and we're going to go put a good product out on the field on Friday night and go compete. And that's all that we as coaches ask for them. Hey, just go compete. And that's the thing that I tell my guys all the time. Like, hey, like it's never going to be perfect. The picture's never going to be what we want all the time. Know what you're supposed to do. Get off the ball and play snap to whistle. If you can do that, we'll be okay. And since I've been to the offensive line, we've been okay at that. So that's the expectation going forward, and that's where we're going to go.
Yep. Coach, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me. It's always fun getting to talk to you in here and talk about football. We'll have to bring you back in here sometime, maybe after football season, talk about it, something like that. But
absolutely,
I'm fired up. I'm excited for football season to get here. It's hot. I'm ready for it to maybe temperature start dropping down a little bit once we start to get
good luck.
We might have to wait until October or so.
Yeah, good luck with that. But that's the thing about Friday nights is you never know what it's going to be, and when you play as long as some of us have into the districts, you go from week 1 where it's hey, you're going to delay and not start till 8 because it's hot, and then week 12 it's below freezing, and we're trying to figure out where all the hand warmers are, and are we the first team that got to the academy to get them because everybody's trying to get them. Like,
this is why I played basketball. Same temperature everywhere. Every game, same temperature.
Yeah, we've seen it all. It's not every game. I've been in some gyms that they definitely run the heater.
Notre Dame. Let's invent air conditioning in your locker rooms, please.
Yeah, I haven't been in that one. I've only been in the gym, but it's one of those things that I think that's what makes football special around here is you just never know. You never know what a Friday night's gonna give you. Rain, snow, sleet, sunshine, heat, doesn't matter. And for the most part, it doesn't matter what two teams are on the field. They're gonna show up and they're gonna compete and give it their best shot, and that's what I think makes football special.
For sure. Like I said, thank you for joining me once again. Everybody, Fridays,
appreciate you having me.
August 28th, week 1.
Yep,
to game
that's week 1.
Yep. Get out, come watch some Cape Center football.
Absolutely, we'll take anybody that we can get. We appreciate all the support, and I thank you for having me back on the podcast. And looking forward to a great season. And absolutely, I'll come back on after the season and do kind of a recap of things. And hopefully, we're talking about another good season for the Tigers and. Talking about all the kids that we're going to lose and who we're going to replace them with again. So
just a never-ending cycle.
It never stops. It never stops.
Well, Coach, once again, thank you, and thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. I appreciate all of y'all. Like I said, always get out, watch Cape Center football. If you want to listen, I'll be recapping all the games all year long. Anywhere you listen, anywhere you can watch, YouTube, Facebook, etc. So check us out, and Coach.
Absolutely. Thanks, sir. Go Tigers.
Have a good one, everybody. Thank y'all.
Thank you.